Hi, Albert. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine as well. And thank you for coming, for honoring the invite. It means a whole lot. Thank you so very much.
And
Okay,
I mean,
yeah. Okay, Albert, I am so excited to have you on the show for diverse reasons. All right.
mhm.
And the first one happens to be I strictly believe that knowledge is the solution to what's problem. And secondly, I firmly believe that there are some things that Albert knows that some of my audience needs to hear this stuff directly from your mouth in order to experience transformation. I firmly believe that. And thirdly, I also believe that even I myself will learn one or two things from your story, your insights, your experiences.
Mhm.
So for that reason, Albert, I want us to get started with your story, the challenges that you faced, and how you overcame them. And afterwards, I've got some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Albert, over to you.
Well, again, thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here. I have been working full time. Part of my journey is I love what I do. I just wrote a book this year called Rise Above the Script. It's about dealing with self-sabotage, helping actors master self-sabotage, confront self-doubt. And it's been a passionate project of mine for the past 5 years. I currently work, for the past 20 years, I've been a talent agent for actors. So I technically my job and I'm based in New York. So what I do is I represent actors for film, TV, theater, professional actors for employment. And that's what I do, full time. And I love what I do. But, my experience has been finding, what really draws me, what really means a lot to me is helping actors or anybody, well, not just actors, but helping people transcend self-doubt, master self-sabotage, get out of their own way, uh, mentally, in a sense. So, I wrote this book and that's the purpose of the book is just for us to get out of our own way and to deal and sometimes confront our fears in a sense. We have two fundamental fears usually, and that's fear of failure, which, is quite common, but also something that's not really talked about, which is fear of success. And that's something that is very, very powerful because we don't, it's not like a conscious fear that someone says, hey, I fear success. A lot of people don't even realize they're doing that, and it really comes down to fear of change and stepping outside your comfort. And that's what I've been doing with my whole life is just been at times is stepping outside my comfort zone, taking risks. I took a risk writing the book, getting it published. I take a risk all the time in pitching actors for different roles. They're calculated risks, but they're still risks. And I feel like there are times when we have to embrace the discomfort to really fully.
Beautiful, Albert. You mentioned some very important words that I am so happy about. That part where you said that you help people transcend self-doubt,
Mhm.
self-sabotage. That's a beautiful thing, I tell you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And it's amazing. Okay, so shall we get started with the questions? Alright, so let's say someone asks you, hey Albert, how can I overcome creative sabotage from both sides? What would your response be?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about both sides of the fear, I think one thing is recognizing why you're doing this, connecting to the real reason why you're motivated to do what you are setting out to do, connecting back to the roots, your roots, and that's the and that's you don't have to do things day in and day out. Just do something that's a little scary for you in a sense. Doesn't have to be a full blown thing, but just something small. And just every groove. But also the main thing is just really connecting to the root of.
Beautiful. I got that. Okay, we still have some questions to go.
Mm-hmm.
So how can one use one's mind power to break through mental blocks? Like using mind power to break through mental blocks. Yeah.
Well, just focusing, having faith, planning things out, um, and just even doing some, deep introspection or deep focusing on what is driving, what are your fears, and confronting them, and being embracing them in a sense. That's the biggest thing too, because I think a lot of times, you know, we don't realize what mental blocks we have. We don't. It's almost like we don't know the mental blocks.
Beautiful. I got that. Honest self-reflection. Hmm. Okay, so as an artist, okay, how can one silence one's inner critic
Um,
as an artist? Yeah.
I think just self-talk is important. The words that you use and treating yourself nice. I mean, the one thing that I tell all artists to get to kind of eliminate from your vocabulary is the idea of the starving artist or the struggling actor. You know, don't when you every time you use those words, whether it's to another person or even to yourself, you're telling your subconscious mind that I need to suffer, I need to be struggling. And so part of it is embracing the identity of you're a solid working actor. Even if you're doing, small short films, you're still you're still working professionally. So you are a professional working actor. And that's the main thing to internalize. Working actor. And I just
Got that. Okay. How do you differentiate between toxic high self-esteem and healthy self-esteem? And why is this distinction
that's very
important for artists?
that's a very, very good question. I'm really glad you asked me that. A healthy self-esteem believes, okay, I'm confident, I can do what I'm doing, I deserve to be here. Too much toxic self-esteem would almost be to a point where I am so high that I think I'm better than the rest. But what ends up happening here is that it's very toxic. High self-esteem can also be very fragile too. So, with regular healthy self-esteem, there are going to be times we're going to have bad days, bad performances for an actor, and we're able to bounce back from it. And someone with toxic high self-esteem is not going to be able to handle that blow. So it's like, it becomes a threat. And sometimes, what best way to avoid a threat? Avoid the situation. When I first started, my work as an agent 20 years ago, I was working with so many actors that I could not figure out why they were not motivated enough, even though they were saying, "I want to work, I'm hungry." But every time I would get an audition, they would come up with a reason not to go, or they would be late, or sometimes even just blow it off. And I feel like it's fear, and that comes down even with the fear. There's that fear of looking bad. If you have such a high, fragile viewpoint of yourself, any has something to avoid. And so what better way to avoid looking bad by just not trying? And so that's where that toxic high self-esteem relates to self-sabotage. Also, when you have that really high self-esteem, you're not open to change. You're not open to being coachable. The one thing, for any successful, whether it's an actor, entrepreneur, business person, we have to be coachable, at least, able to adapt to feedback. Where a lot of times some of these actors with high self-esteem are so self-insulted if you give them feedback.
Beautiful. I love how you are answering those questions. You're making it very easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for answering it that way. Okay, we still have two more. All right, two more to go. So yeah, still on self-esteem. In your book, you introduced techniques for raising self-esteem in your book. So could you share a couple of these techniques
Absolutely.
and perhaps a success story of someone who has applied them?
Well, I once worked. She was self-conscious because she had a height issue. She was, for a female, she was 6'2". She's 6'2", which at the time she was very self-conscious about that. And it was encouragement through her own exploration. She started to embrace that really, she looked at it as that's a strength, a superpower. And when she did it that way, that kind of transformed her booking ratio. She started booking more jobs. Now, the one thing is and how can you use those limitations for your superpower? Another thing I talk a lot about, especially at the end of, the self-esteem unit, is there's something that I call in the book called the happy file. And what you do with the happy file is you take a documentation. This is not just for actors. Anybody can do this. Anytime you get positive feedback, whether it be from a coach, a class, an audience member, an acquaintance, you document it, like in the physical journal. Like I think having an actual, physical journal is key here. And you document that. And then anytime you have any type of self-doubt, which is human.
Amazing. The happy five. Okay, I got that. Okay, so to bring this to an end, Albert, we have just one more question left. Okay, so what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who feels overwhelmed by self-doubt and is considering leaving the performing arts?
I would just say, remember why you're here. Why did you go into performing arts? And really focus on that. Why are you here? That's the first thing. Secondly, take care of yourself. If you legitimately need a break, take a break. Self-care is extremely important. If you need to take a week, a month, I've had clients who said, you know what, I need a break. I need a couple months break just to reevaluate soul search. Do that. Travel. You do things differently. The main thing is self-care is extremely important. At the end of the day, you are the most important person. So do what you need to do, whether doing hiatus from social media, whatever it is that you need to do that. And and also just connect to the main reason. Why are you here? Why did you become an actor? Why did you become this?
Sure. Great advice, I tell you. That's amazing. Because when you are reminded of why you are there in the first place, it might serve as a motivation to keep you going. I got that. Okay, Albert, it has been an interesting moment with you on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you. So to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with? Like your final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what you do, or even get your book
Sure.
or books, how can that be possible?
Well, it's available on Amazon or ebook or hard copy. Also on different platforms such as Spotify and Apple. It's available as an audiobook. It's called Rise Above the Strip, Confronting Self-Doubt, Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. So just look for Rise Above the Strip. On Instagram at Dr. Al Bramante. Connect me on Facebook.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. All right, so any final thought, like a last message or something?
Just
Beautiful. Okay, so that's gonna be the end of the show, Albert. Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Thank you for blessing us with this valuable information. Thank you so very much.
I appreciate